Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. In this video we're going to build this hotel admin dashboard app. This will be a management app for hotel admins to manage all of their hotels. As you can see here, we have a list of hotels that have certain information on there. If we click through to view more information on a certain hotel, you can see here the URL changes and it has a certain ID. This ID will be fetched from the database. We will be using Firebase for this today, and you can see here we have CRUD functionality on there with the hotel information, and we are able to edit the description. So if I click here, a pop-up displays here and we can edit the details and update. This will then go back to the database and update the database also. We can also exit out of this by clicking on it again. If we click delete the hotel will delete. So if I delete that, and we get redirected back to the home page. We now have one hotel left, and then also we can create a hotel. So if we go on to the new hotel route / create, we can now add a new hotel. Once we click onto this will then add to the Firestore database, and this is all using CRUD functionality. The stack for this will be React and TypeScript along with Firebase for the database. We will also be using React Router DOM for this, so we can manage our different routes. Okay, so let's get started. What I'm going to do is install create React app with TypeScript. So npx create React app, and then the name of the app is going to be the hotel dashboard, and I'm going to add the TypeScript template on, so a dash template of TypeScript, and now press enter. So whilst that's installing, we're not going to use any sort of styled package. I'm not going to focus on that in today's build. I will be providing the CSS for this, and this will be available in the index.css file. So all we will be doing today is concentrating on our build and connecting to Firebase. We will be focusing on the CRUD methods and how to connect Firebase. These will be the create, read, update and delete methods. So that's what we will be doing in our hotel build. The aim of this project is so that we get familiar with these methods and also be able to manage our hotels with React. So now that we have the project set up, if we go into our source folder, we just need to do some configuration with this. So first off, we don't need the app.css, so I'm just going to delete that file. And we won't be focusing on the unit tests again today, so I'm going to delete that also. And also the logo SVG, so delete that. So if I go into my index.css, I'm just going to bring in my styles, and you can look at this later on in the repo. So if I just paste them in, we have a list of styles on there. So we will be using class names in our JSX. So in app.tsx, we want to first of all delete everything within here. And then I'm just going to render a H1 saying hotel app, like so. And if I save, and we also need to run npm start. So I'll just bring that in here so we can look at it side by side. So this one will be running on 3001, and then we have our completed build on 3000. So we will be aiming to copy and mimic this functionality over here. Here straight away we have an error, so we just need to fix that. So in our app, we want to delete the logo and not import app.css, like so. So now if I save, we now have our hotel app rendering, and as you can see, our new styles that we injected in the index.css are pulling through, as you can see. So what I want to do is go into my index.tsx, and in here we want to add a browser router. So here is where we will install React Router DOM. So what we need to do is install that. So if I close my terminal and then install, so npm install or npm I React Router DOM, and let that install. What we want to do is wrap the app in a browser router. So I'm just going to add that in now. So browser router, as you can see from React Router DOM. And then we want to put the app in as a child, and now save. And then if I go into my app.tsx, now we want to define the route. So on here, we have a home page as a route. We have a create route for the new hotels. And we also have a details route, which has a certain ID. So if I click onto view more information, we have a /hotels/ID. So this will be the ID we are pulling through from Firebase. So that is also another route. And we will also have a not found route. So if I just type in /hot, you can see here we have a 404 page. So we will have a route for this as well. So going back to the home dashboard, and in my app.tsx, what I'm going to do is first of all delete this, and we need to import routes to manage all of our routes from React Router DOM. And within routes, so if I import this from React Router DOM like so, in here we are going to specify all of our routes. So the first route we want, so route, and there are two elements that we need to pass in, which are the path and the element. So the path that I am going to declare first of all is the create path. So path equals, and then in strings /create, and then the element is going to be equal to the create component, which we need to create. And then also we need to close off the route like so as well. And then also import the route from React Router DOM. So now if I save, it should error out saying we don't have the create on there. So if I go to /create, as you can see, it has an error now. So I'm just going to do the same for all the other components. So I'll just bring them in here and paste it in. So we have 4 routes here. /create will show the create component, which is the form here that we will create and send a post request to the database and update the database with a new document. We have the /hotels/:ID, which will have the specific details for the hotel that we have clicked on. We have a catch all route for anything that is not specified for not found. So this is what you would do. And then you could render your 404 page that way. And then the / will render the home page, which is all of the hotels that we have in our database. So what I now need to do is in my source folder, I'm going to create a new folder in here named components. And in here, I'm going to create my 4 components that I need. So I have a create.tsx. We have a details.tsx, a not found.tsx, and a card.tsx as well. So first off, I'm going to do our React functional snippets, which is this extension over here that I have, which is ES7 plus React Redux native snippets, and we can create our functional components quite easily using this. So in my card.tsx, I'm just going to do rfce tab, and then you can see here it creates the card. The same for the details, so rfce, the not found as well, rfce, and then the create as well, so rfce tab. And now if I save all and go onto my app, what I also need to do is hook this up on the app.tsx. So in my folder structure, if I go into app.tsx, now I just need to import these in, and then we can test to see if this has all hooked up and the routing is working correctly. So if I save all, so the home page has the card, the /create has the create. We don't have the hotel ID at the minute, so I'm just going to do another create n on there, and that should have the not found. So now that the routing is complete, all we need to do now is create a navbar so we can navigate to the relevant pages. Okay, so the navbar has a few elements on there. So we have the dashboard as the title, and we have 2 links that link out to 2 separate pages. So we have the /create route here on the new hotel, and then we have the home route, which is the all hotels on here. So all I need to do is create the navbar component. So in my components folder, create a new file in here named navbar.tsx. And if you look within my components folder, what I would normally do is have an individual card folder, an individual create folder, because then what we could do is add multiple files in there. For example, a test file or a styled file as well, and it's unique to that specific component. But because we are just using the index.css for our global styles and class names, we won't be doing that in this build, and we also won't be using unit tests in this build as well. So in our navbar, I just want to do rfce for our React functional snippets, and the navbar, it won't have any props, so we won't need to define any types for our TypeScript. So in the navbar, I'm going to, instead of a div, have a nav as a HTML element, and within here we have the dashboard title. So if I push this down, we have a H1 saying dashboard. So now if I save and go here onto my home route, because that's where we want to render it, and now it's not showing up. So if I copy the navbar and go into my index.tsx, just above the app component, I want to render it here, so then it is a global component, so it's wrapped around the whole app. So if we import the navbar here and then import that from the component and now save all, we can now see the title here says dashboard. So now we can carry on with the rest of the navbar. So if I go back into my code, I first off want to give the navbar a class name of navbar, which is in the index CSS, and now save. We can see the style now changes. So now what we want to do is have a new div within the navbar. So this is where our links will be. So it will be div dot, and then we can define the class name this way. So the class name is going to be links, and then if I press tab, we now have a div class name of links. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a link tag from React Router DOM. So the way to do this is link, and then as you can see, it auto suggests this for me. So link from React Router DOM we are importing, and then we want to link to, and in the link to we define a path. So the first one we want to link to is the home route. So link to the home route like so, and then close off that. And then as you can see here in the completed build, we have all hotels and a new hotel. So I'm just going to define the first one as all hotels. Now save. We have that there. And then we also want to do the same thing again, but just in this time, we want to do it for the new hotels. So I also want to style the all hotels one first. So I'm going to add some inline styling in here. So style is equal to, and then we want to do double curly braces like so. And if I'll just bring that down. So in my style, I just want to change the color. So the color will be this RGB of 77 3 times like so. So now if I save, you can see now the color has changed. I also want to define the style for the create. So I'll just copy this, bring it into my new hotels and paste that in and save. So what I've done is define the color as white, the background color as the RGB, and given it a border radius. What you could also do is if you hover over it, you could potentially change and make that the selected style, and then when we select onto another one, that changes as well, but I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. So now we have the nav complete. If I test this out, so on all hotels we are rendering the card component, which is correct, and then on the new hotels, if we click onto that, we should be going to the /create. So I need to add that in. So /create and save. Now if I click on it here, we now have the create component as well. So what I now want to do is create the database with Firestore, so we will be doing that now. Okay, so if you search on Google for Firebase, you can see here the first link here, so firebase.google.com. If we click onto that and get started, I'm already signed into a Google account. So if you have a Google account, you could just sign in, and then all you need to do then is create a project. So this project is going to be called Hotel Admin, so Hotel Dashboard, like so, and click continue. And then if we press continue again, and the account you can see here is my account, and create a project. So that will create the project for you. With Firebase as well, you have a lot of different functionalities that you could use to enhance your project, for example, authentication and so on. But in this builder, we're just going to be using the Firestore database. So now it says your new project is ready. So if we click on continue, so on the left side here, we have a build tab. And if we click on that, you can see all of the services here that we could use. In today's build, we will be using the Firestore database. So all I want to do is click on that. But before I actually click on that, I want to click this, which says web. So if you click on that, and we need to register our app. So it's going to be the Hotel Dashboard app. And I also want to set up Firebase hosting for this app so we can deploy it as well. And then register app. So as you can see here, it gives you instructions on what to do. So first off, we want to install Firebase like so. If I copy that, And you also need to install the Firebase CLI. If you haven't got that already, you can just Google Firebase Global Install CLI. And then once you have that, you can continue with this process here. So if I close my terminal and then paste in the npm install Firebase like so. I'm just going to expand this because what we also need to do in our project is create a lib folder to handle all of our external libraries that we import. So in our source, we're going to create a new folder in here named lib. And inside lib, I'm going to create a new file named firebase.ts. And in here, you can see that it says we need to initialize the Firebase project. So I'm just going to copy this and paste this in here. So the version we are going to be using in today's build is Firebase version 9, so the latest one. So I'm just going to delete everything off here. And the key thing we need is the config, because this is what connects our React application to our database. So the only thing I'm going to do is keep the Firebase config. So if I delete the get analytics because we don't need that, as you can see here, we are importing Initialize app from Firebase/app. So the benefit of Firebase version 9 is it has a tree shaking syntax on there. So we only import what we need. In this case, all we need is the initialize app method from the Firebase module. So instead of importing the entire Firebase module itself, we just need the one method. So therefore, what that does in a production environment is it improves the speed and performance of the app. So that's a benefit of using version 9. So all we need in our file here is the app. So I'm going to export this like so. And now all I want to do is create a new file in here, which is going to be a controller. So this is where we define our CRUD method. So create, read, update, and delete. So controller.ts. And if you could generate your own Firebase config, because this one will be deleted by the time the video is up. So now I've created my controller.ts. I'm going to go into my Firebase console and then click next. So also you need to install the Firebase CLI. I already have it installed on my machine, but if you have never used Firebase before, if you just copy this and run this in your terminal also. And then all we need to do is click next. We will leave this step until we are ready to deploy our app. So if we click continue to console, we now have our app synced to Firebase. So all I want to do is create the database now. So if I click on the build and Firestore database like so, and then we want to create the database and start in test mode and click next. And then here we choose our location. So I'm just going to leave it as the default location, but you can change it in here. So actually I'll change it to Europe West because that's where I am. And then click enable. So now it's going to create the Firestore. So now as you can see, we have our Firestore set up. I'm going to create a collection first of all. So this collection is going to be named hotels. And what we want to do is generate a document ID. So this is the ID that we have over here. So if I click on view more information, then we go into /hotels / the document ID. As you can see here, this is what Firebase generates, and this is how we separate our individual hotels. So if I click auto ID on here, we want to add a few fields on here. They will all be strings. This is what we create using our create component. So we have all of these fields here. So if we create them now, first one is the country, and this is going to be USA for our first hotel. We also want to add the description. So description, and I will just paste that in here. So then what I will do is add the rest in now and then save. So now I have all of my fields here. So if I click save, we now have our first document on here. So now we can work with this on our front end. So as you can see, this will be the structure. So we have a country, description, a feature of the hotel, the ID, which is going to be the same ID as the document. We have the location, which is a string for the image URL, the price per night, the region, review, the amount of stars that hotel has, the title, and the total price. So going back to our app here on the home page, we now want to create the card component and fetch what we have created in our Firestore database. So we will be doing that next. Okay, so now what we want to do is fetch this data we have created in our document onto our front end application. So if I go into my components, into card.tsx, So this component is what is getting rendered on the home page. So if I go into my return block, this div here is going to have a class name of card, and then within the card div, we're going to have a h2 for the title. So this will have a h2 dot class name of title and tab. And the title is going to be all hotels, like so. And if I save, we are getting an error because we haven't put anything into our controller.ts file. So we will be doing soon. So if I just close this off, we can see the title is now getting rendered. So now what we want to do is on page load, we want to fetch our Firestore data in real time. So we will do that in a use effect. So if I do use effect, and in this use effect, we're going to have a callback of on snapshot. So this is a method called from Firebase. So on snapshot, and if I import this in, and on snapshot takes in two arguments. So the first argument is the collection that we want to access. So that is the hotels here. So what I want to do is define the hotels collection. So first argument is hotels collection. And this is what we will define in our controller.ts file. So if I go into my controller and remove what I have. So now in here, we want to declare the Firestore. So a const Firestore is equal to get Firestore. So this is a hook that we can call. So get Firestore. And now we want to pass in our app that we exported from our Firebase TS here. So we want to get the Firestore within this app here. So we just need to import that now. So import. So again, we are using tree shaking to get only the methods that we need. So in this case, we want to get Firestore from Firebase /Firestore, like so. And then we also need to import the app from our firebase.ts, so /Firebase here. And then this Firestore, we now need to get access to globally. So export this as well. So now we have access to our Firestore, which is our database here. We now want to declare our hotels collection. So put a comment in here, hotels collection. So that is this collection we have here. So we want to get access to every document within here for all our hotels. So all we do is export hotels collection, which is what we are going to call it, is equal to collection. So we import in that again from Firebase /Firestore. So we add that in. And what we want to pass in first is our Firestore as of the first argument, and then the path as the second. So we've defined the Firestore just above now, which is there, here. And then the second argument is the path that I want to access, which in this case is a string of hotels. So this is the one we want to access for the hotels collection. So now if I save and copy this and go into my card, we now should be able to import this from our lib controller. And I also want to import on snapshot from Firebase Firestore as well. So again, we are only getting what we are only using. So that's the first argument done. And then the second argument is a callback function. So in the callback function, we have access to something called a snapshot. So if I type in snapshot, and then we have an arrow function in here. So the first thing I want to do is console log the snapshot just to see if we're getting something back from this. So console log the snapshot. And now if I save and I go into my app here on the front end and I want to inspect the page in my console, we have here an XH of snapshot. We are getting a connection to our Firestore database. So what we want to do now is get access to the docs in here. And in the docs, we have access to a ID. This ID should end in RWA. So if I go into here, and as you can see on our database, we have the ID of this document ending in RWA. So now what we need to do is render that out and get access to the snapshot.doc.id. And we also want to get the data as well that we have in that document. So instead of console logging now, we want to access the snapshot.docs.map because we want to map over everything within the doc. So if we do the map in here, and for each doc that we have, we want to return So return. Actually, first of all, I'm going to console log the doc. What am I getting back in this doc here? So console log doc. Now if I save again, close this off and refresh the page, we are getting a doc back in here, which has the ID again. So we have narrowed it down further. So we also want to get the data as well. So that will be in the document data. And as you can see, all of my fields are here in an object. So all I want to do now is return, instead of a console log, return an object, and in this object I'm going to define a ID and spread all of the doc.data. So first one is going to be ID, which is equal to doc.id, like so. And then second of all, I'm going to get access to the doc.data. But we want to get access to all of the doc.data, which is all of these. So we want to spread them. So now if I save, we should be getting access to the doc.data. So now what I need to do is put it into some piece of state so we can access that and map the data onto the front end. So if I declare a variable here, so const, I'm going to name this hotels and set hotels, which is equal to useState, and this is going to be a useState of an array. So what we need to do is import useState from React, like so. And then I now need to set the hotels where we get the return here. So when I return my snapshot, I then want to set the hotels to this here. So if I just move this and copy it and paste it in the set hotels here, like so, and save. What I also want to do is console log what I get back as the hotels. Console log hotels, which is the state. So if I save, I also need to add a dependency array in. So it only loads the data once the component has mounted. So the dependency array here, take that out and save. We are now getting a Typescript error, so we will address that in a moment. I just want to see if I am actually getting the hotels here. So as you can see, when the component mounts, we are getting access to the hotels in here, which is a good sign. So just to test that this is working in real time, I'm going to change the total price value from 500 to 600 in our backend. So in here, if I go to total price and click edit, I just want to click on here and change it to 600 and update. So that's updated here. If I go into my front end, we have now got a re-render. And if I check the total price in here, as you can see, we have 600 in here. So the onSnapshot method, it is a real-time listener so that if we update data in the backend or in the front end, it always updates onto our Firestore database. So now if I hover over this error, what it's saying is, so because set hotels is a set state action, it is setting the state of the doc.data to an array, but because we are adding an object in there as well, so what I now need to do is create a type for this here. So the first thing I'm going to do is on snapshot, as you can see, Typescript infers the type already for snapshot for the Firebase callback. So if I just copy this, the type is already getting inferred, but I'm just going to add it anyway so you can see what the type is. So the error is because we need to import these from Firebase. So query snapshot, I'm going to import from Firebase/Firestore and the document data. So if you hover over it, it does show the type here as well. So for the doc, we need to fix that one. And the way to fix it is in here, we could add types that this return could be. So in my source, I'm going to create a new folder in here named types. So this is where I'm going to put all of my TypeScript types for this project. And I'm just going to create a single file for this named hotel.ts. Okay, so the first hotel type, we are going to be expecting this as a structure. So this is what we're expecting to be set when we have the new hotel type. So if I copy this and I'm going to export this interface, so export interface as new hotel type. And this is the structure that it should have. So they're all strings basically. So the keys are defined here and then the values are all strings. So I'm just going to undo what I have and bring in the new hotel type here and paste it in. So they are the title, description, feature, location, stars, country, region, review, total price, per night, and ID. And they all have a question mark on there because at one moment in time they will be undefined, so they may not be there. So what we want to do is cover that with a undefined check. So the new hotel type is an object. Because we are receiving an array, all we need to do is import the new hotel type here. So new hotel type is an object that we are exporting in our types folder. So if I just import the new hotel type that we have just created, it's still causing an error because we need to close it off, and then we don't want this extra here. And then this is going to be an array containing objects like so. So now if I save, we are getting an error saying it's not a module, so I now need to save everything. So now as you can see, that has now fixed the error, because we are saying that when we set the hotels, we are expecting the object or the array of objects to contain this in here. So if I was to comment out the ID, for example, you can see here that there will be an error, and it's saying ID string has no properties in common with type new hotel types. It's basically saying that the ID is not contained in our type that we have defined. So all I do is Control Z that, and then the error goes away. So that is just a quick way to fix the error handling for TypeScript. So now all I need to do is map this hotel's data onto the front end. So we now have a use effect collecting all the hotels data here. So now we want to do some JavaScript in here. So the way to add JavaScript into our JSX is if we add curly brackets like so. So the first check we want to do is to see if hotels is there. So hotels and hotels.length. So we want to check if this array has a length in there, so it at least has one object, as opposed to an empty array, because we can't map over something that isn't there. So hotels.length, if that is true, so we put the question mark like so, we want to return a div. In this div, we want to map over the hotels. So hotels question mark, which is optional chaining, is an extra check in there to see if we have any hotels. Then we want to map over. So hotels.map, and for each hotel that we get back, I want to implicitly return. So the way to implicitly return is to just have your parentheses like so and press enter. So now we are returning whatever is being received in hotel. And in hotel, we want to create a new component called information. So information, and the props we want to pass into information is the hotel is equal to hotel. So to give you an idea of what the information component is, it basically is this component here. So we want to create the UI for this next. What I also want to do is handle the else block. So if we don't have any hotels length, what we want to do then is space, colon, and then another parentheses in here. So this is the case if there are no hotels in our database. So I'm just going to render out a H2 saying there are no hotels, please add one. So now all I need to do is create the new component. So this one is going to be named information.tsx. So the reason we're using TSX is because we're going to have JSX inside our component. So this is where we render HTML. If we use TS, then we aren't using any HTML elements in the file. So RFCE in our information, like so. And this time we are going to be receiving props. So the props we are receiving is this hotel here. So an individual hotel. So in here, I'm going to pass in and destructure my hotel. And then I'm going to create an interface for this. So I'm going to name this iProps, which is going to be defined just above. So interface of iProps, and that is going to contain a hotel. And the hotel this time, so if we go into our hotel TS, again, we are going to have the new hotel type this time, and we will need to import that as well. And this time we're not going to add the array because it is an object we are passing in. So I'm just going to remove that and space that out, and just console log the hotel that we are receiving in here. And now if I remove the console log from hotels here, and now save, I also need to import the information component and then save all once again and close this down and refresh. So as you can see here, we are getting the individual document that we have passed in. So all we need to do, we have an error here saying we need to render a key prop. So whenever we render a list or map through something, we need a key. So in my card component here in information, I'm just going to give the key equal to hotel.id. So now if I save, we now aren't getting that error. So now in my information component, we are receiving the correct information. So I now want to render this out onto the page. So first off, I'm going to delete this, and in my return block, I'm going to give a div with the class name of hotel-preview. And inside here, we are going to render out the card. So I'm just going to copy a few things across. So the first thing is the image container, and paste that in here. So in the image container, we have an image and the alt text will be hotel. We have some highlights. So if I just save, you can see here the image is being rendered, and it is. And if I close this off, you can see here it is responsive so that the price per night is on the right, but if we get to a smaller screen size, it goes underneath. So what we are rendering for each hotel is the hotel location. That is the image source of this image here. We are also rendering the hotel title, which is in a H2. We are rendering a P tag of the region, so hotel.region in here, and then also the hotel price, which is £56 per night. So that is the top half of the div complete, which is the image container. So underneath, I'm going to render a description. So this is this second portion over here, which has the stars, the reviews, the main feature, and then the view information button. So in my description, I'm going to give this a class name of description. So div and then dot description tab. And inside here, I'm going to have a span and a HR first of all. So if I just copy that and paste it in. So we have a class name of reviews, which is rendering the hotel.stores. So if I save, so we have 3 stars based on 997 reviews. So hotel.review is equal to reviews. So just double check that is correct, which it is. And then underneath the HR, what do we have here? It is a main feature and a view more information button. So if I go underneath the HR and bring in the span for main features, so we have the main feature of hotel.feature in here, and I've added the optional in here. Again, it's optional chaining to see if that is there, then only show it. If it isn't there, then don't show it, and it wouldn't error out at that point. And just finally, I want to add in the button as well. So if I copy that and then paste that in and save, that is the button being rendered out here. And I also want to make this button clickable. At the minute, it's not clicking to anything. So as we have done previously, with the routing, we just need to import the link tag from React Router DOM. So link, and we want to link to, and this is going to be dynamic this time. So we want to have curly braces, and then with JavaScript, we have ES6 syntax. We have access to backticks, which is template strings. And this time it's going to be /hotels/ the ID. So in this case, it's going to be curly braces again with the $, and then hotel.id. So we will have access to the ID here, and then we want to close this off and then put in here the button. So now that brings us on to the next page, which is the hotel ID. So if I go into here, I should now go through to the /hotels / this ID here of RWA. So if I click here, we now have access to the ID ending in RWA, which brings us onto the details page. So now we have the routing set up for the individual hotels. What we now need to do is get access to the ID here and fetch the data for a single document in our Firestore. So now what I want to do is go into my details component. So in here, and let's create this. So first off, we want to fetch all the data for a single document using the ID in the URL. And then second, we want to render out the relevant information for that specific document. So first off, we want to get access to the ID in the URL. So we want to use params for this. So const document ID is equal to use params, like so, and we import that from React router DOM. And then what I want to do instead is destructure the ID from the use params, like so. And then I want to console log this ID to see if I am getting the right ID back. And now if I save and then open up my inspector tab in console, you can see here the ID ends in RWA, which is the same as the ID in the URL. So we are getting that correct. So now I'm getting access to the ID on the URL. We now need to fetch the hotel data from the document that corresponds with the ID here. So first of all, I want to fetch a single document this time. So instead of all of the documents in the hotels collection. So I'm just going to comment this saying fetch a single document. So this one's going to be const get hotel, which is equal to, and I'm going to tree shake once again doc from Firestore. So we want to access a single document this time. I want to access my Firestore that we defined in our controller. So this is the Firestore relating to my Firestore in the hotel dashboard. And then the path for this one is going to be template literals hotels / the selector. And then the ID we want to pass in is from the use params, like so. So to compare it with what we did on the fetching all the documents, we did the Firestore and then we passed in the hotels. So if I go into my CRUD in my hotels collection, so as you can see here, this time we was accessing a collection, passing in our Firestore, and then the collection that we wanted to access was the hotels collection here in our controller. But in the details this time, we wanted to access a document. So the doc here in this Firestore that we have defined, which is across the app, in our hotels /ID, like so. If we had a further sub collection within this ID, so if we had another collection in here, all we need to do is / new collection / the ID once again, like so. So now we have access to our individual hotel. So this information within this ID. What we again want to do is similar to what we did with the card, is have a use effect and a piece of state as well. So first off, I'm going to declare the state, so const, and I'm going to name this individual singular hotel and set hotel. And we can use this because this is on a different path. So this is on a different path to the cards path, so the home route. So this is equal to use state of, and this time it's going to be an object because this time we are receiving the object and not the array. So if I import useState from React, and then what we want to do is have a use effect underneath. So when the component mounts this time, so use effect with the callback, and at the end we want to add the dependency array, just to say that we want to fetch this data once and once only. So what I want to do is I want to fetch the data, and that is in a promise format. So we need to create a async function within the use effect. We can't add a async within the use effect like this. So what we need to do is create the function in here, and then we want to immediately invoke it straight after. So the way to do that is const fetch hotel data, type that in correctly. So fetch hotel data, which is equal to an async function, and this is an arrow function. So this is the logic in here, and then I'm going to call it straight after, like so. Fetch hotel data, just so I don't forget to call it. So in here, I want to define something called a doc snap. So const doc snap, which is essentially a snapshot of the document at that moment in time, is equal to await. And now we're going to import something from Firebase. So is await get doc, and in get doc, if we import that, we get access to the document reference. So we need to get access to that, which is here. So we want to pass in get hotel in here, like so. So we have defined the doc snap now. So if I save, what we need to do is check if that doc snap is in the Firestore database. So we want to do an if check in here. So if doc snap And then if I press full stop on here, as you can see here, we have a few methods that we could call. So we want to check for if docsnap exists first of all. So if it exists, then we want to do something. So in the if block, we then want to set the hotel to a new hotel object. So we need to define this. So new hotel obj, I'm just going to call it, if I just copy this, just above const new hotel obj is equal to an object. So again, like we did with the card here, I'm just going to copy this and then paste it in here into our new hotel obj. But instead of doc this time, it's going to be the doc snap, like so. So now essentially what we are doing is we are setting the ID again and then all of the data that we have within this object here. So that is the if block checked. So now all we need to do is an else block as well. Otherwise, we just want to console log there is no such document, so no such document. So if it does hit the else block, I want to put a comment in here as well saying doc.data will be undefined in this case. So now if I save and console log the hotel in the details like so and go into my React application and inspect. So the object of hotel in here, we have the relevant object here as well. So all I need to do now is render it on the front end. So I've got an array in here, which I'm going to disable this with ESLint. We essentially want to only fetch the data when the component mounts. So that adds the disable on there. Otherwise, TypeScript will have errors on the problems tab here. So I also want to add a loading state on here so that we have some sort of loading functionality. So if I have the state of is loading and set is loading equal to false, when we fetch the data at the beginning here, I want to set is loading to true. And then after we have set the hotel to the new hotel object, we want to set is loading to false here. And before my return block, I'm going to add a guard clause on here. So this is defensive programming. So we want to do a check in here to say if is loading is true, we want to return a div class name of loading. So I'm just going to return this div here. So return a div here, and this class name is defined in our index.css file as well. And you could also remove this and add a closing bracket here and save. So as you saw there was a little load and then we got the data. So if I refresh, we get the load and then the data again. So we need to get the hotel and map through it this time. So this is a bit different because this will be an object now and not an array. So we don't have access to the map. So we need to almost convert it into an array. So again, in my return block, I'm going to give a div with the class name this time of hotel detailed and press tab, and in hotel detailed I'm going to render some JavaScript. So again, we want to have the curly brackets, and in here we want to get access to hotel, which is the piece of state we have defined just above here. We should have a hotel object this time, and we also want to check for hotel dot length like so, and if that is true, let me just add the and in here. So now if hotel is true, then we want to return the information component once again, information component, and hotel is equal to hotel again. But this time, as you can see in here, when we click through, we have some more information in here, and we also have the edit description functionality in here. So what we need to do is we need to somehow find a way to differentiate between the details page and the home page. So the way to do that is in our details component, we need to pass in a prop in here, so a boolean value. So that I'm going to name as details page. So essentially what that means is if that is passed in, so the other way to do this would be details page is equal to details page like so, or true or false. But if I just pass in details page, that means that it is true. So on the information component, the information component needs to expect for this. So if I go into the information component as props, I want to also pass in the details page, but this time is going to be conditional, so this is a Boolean value, and this will only be there as an optional value. So that tells TypeScript that this might come or it might not come. And if it does come, we want to conditionally render the description and so on. So I'll leave that for now. So going back into my details.tsx component, I now want to check if hotel length is true for the object. Then we want to render the information component with the details page being passed. So that will show more information this time. So we will be able to delete and update the hotel. Otherwise, we just want to return null this time. You could add whatever conditional logic you want in there, but I'm just going to return nothing this time. So if I save, there is going to be an error. So if I save all, we now need to check here. So it says property of length does not exist on type of an object, which is correct. So we just need to do a bit of JavaScript in here. So I'm going to wrap both hotels in object.keys. So object.keys and then object.keys again, wrapping around the hotel. So this error should go away now. And in this file now we have no errors. So if I now save and go into here, so now as you can see here, we have the /hotels /3u and then RWA. And if I went back into all hotels, you can see here you don't have all of the information. So what I now need to do is conditionally render the hotel description and then add in the CRUD methods with Firebase. So we will do that next. Okay, so now that we are in our details component, and it is pretty much rendering the same information as is on the home page. So if I go into here, we have the same information on here. So what I want to do is almost copy this kind of structure here. So we want to click through to our details page, and then we want to add our CRUD functionality in here of the delete hotel and the update hotel. And we want to show more information also. So going back into our application here, and going into our details component, if the details page boolean is passed into our information component, we want to conditionally render certain information. So scrolling down into our description, just after our main feature, we want to add our features in here. So in here, if we have access to the details page, if that is true, we want to render something here. Otherwise, we want to render the view more information button in here. So if I cut that out and paste that in here, like so. And then in here, I want to render a p tag saying you are on the details page. So now if I save, you can see here you are on the details page. And then if I go into the home page, that renders the link to button here. So what we want to do is show the description first of all. So instead of this p tag here, we want to add a class name of description text. And then in the description text, we want to render out the hotel.description. Now save. As you can see, the hotel description is rendering now. And just at the end of here, we want to add a strong tag. So strong. And this is going to say edit description. So this is going to be a clickable element that when we click onto it, it opens up a edit component. So edit description like so. So now if I save, and this strong tag has a class name as well of edit text, edit hyphen text. So now when I hover over it, it should have almost a clickable element sort of feel to it. So now we need to add the functionality in for that. So I'm going to bring in some piece of state in here. So first off, at the top of our file here, we want to have a Boolean state value. So edit description and set edit description. So if I go back down into here and on our strong tag, we want to add a non-click in here to say at the minute it's false, but if we click onto it, we want to do the opposite of true. And if edit description is true, we then want to show this here. So the toggling functionality almost. So now it is true, we are showing this component. And then if we click again, it's going to show as false, so then we won't show this component. So on the strong tag, we want to add in onClick, which has a function in here. So onClick is equal to an anonymous function which basically sets edit description. So onClick set edit description, which is this here, to the opposite of edit description, which is this here. So underneath this p tag, if edit description is true, we want to return a p tag in here, edit me, like so, otherwise return null. And we need to move this up into the p tag actually. And now if I save and go into our app, I want to hover over it and click edit description. And now you can see it says edit me. And if I click it again, it hides the component. So now what we want to do is create this edit description component here. And then we can update and also add the delete hotel button as well. So what I'll first of all do is add the delete hotel button. So that is just a simple button underneath. So button of delete hotel, and all the buttons have the style on already. So hotel, and now I want to wrap it in a React fragment because there are two children here now. So now if I save, and as you can see, we have the functionality set here as well. Okay, so now I want to create the edit component on here. So if I go into my components and create a new file named edit.tsx and rfce in here. So now if I save all, and I also need to import the edit component into the information component. So we, instead of the p tag, we will now want to render the edit component. So this is just going to be replaced with edit, and that is imported from ./edit like so. And now if I save and go back into my edit component, so in here we have three elements. We have a label, a text area, and a button. So I'm just going to bring them in. So first off, we have a div with the class name of edit, and in here we have a label also, and I'm just going to remove this for now and just put in, please enter the hotel description below. So bring this in. So now we have a label rendering, please enter the description below. We also need a text area, so that is also here, and I'm going to put this as required, as we will be doing with all the fields. And this text area will be just the name of description, and the ID will also be description, and we don't need to worry about the column or the rows on here. Now if I save, we have a text area here that gets expanded also, and then finally we have a button, and that will say update hotel, and it also has a class name of update button. So if I just copy that, have that in here as well. And now you can see the UI is rendering. We just need to hook it up to the state. So what I want to do is when I click the update hotel button, we then want to close the edit description back down. So we need to receive props in for that. So the first prop we want to receive is, in going back into my information, is the edit description, because then that way we can tell what the state is for edit description, whether it's open or closed. And then we also want to do the set edit description as well as a prop. So set edit description is equal to set edit description. And then we need to receive these props in here. So edit description and set edit description. So now all we need to do is declare an interface for this. So iProps like so. And for now, I'm going to create the interface for iProps at the top and bring these in here. And these are going to have a class of, or a type of any. And actually, we already know that the edit description is going to be a Boolean value, so I'll just keep that in there like so. And we need to use the edit description. So when I click the button, so on click, I'm going to render a function in here. So onClick is equal to an anonymous function in here, and this function is going to be called handle update, which I need to create above. So just before my return, I'm going to create a function called handle update, which is an arrow function. And when I click on it, I want to toggle the edit description back to the wherever the state is. So this time it should be false. So if I just copy and bring this in, I want to set edit description to the opposite of edit description in here. So now if I save and click update hotel, it closes it off. What I also want to do is I want to update the hotel. So this will update hotel. And we also want to navigate back to the home page. So I'll just add these comments in here. So now what I also want to do is whatever I type into this text box, once I click update hotel, I want to send these changes to our database and updates and replaces this description over here. So in my text area, I now need to give it a value, and I also need to give it an onChange method. So add that in here, and the value for this is going to be equal to state. So I'm going to create that now. So const new description and set new description. So these are the new values that are going to be created when we type into our text box, is equal to useState of an empty string. And we also need to import useState from React. So the value for our text box now is going to be the new description. And then we also need the onChange. So onChange is equal to an event. So essentially what we want to do is set the new description to e.target.value. So essentially when we click the update hotel button here, we essentially want to get a snapshot of whatever is in here and pass that in as the value to the database. So what I also want to do is give this a type. So the way to find out the type for set edit description is if I go into the information component, and where I have set edit description, as you can see here, if I hover over it, it gives me a type. So I just need to copy this and go back into my edit component and paste that in here. So now we have the correct type for this. So a React dispatch and set state action of a Boolean in here. So in terms of the UI, that is pretty much everything complete. I also need to add the new hotels form in here. So we need to do that next. And then once that's done, we are going to connect and update our controller file to add all our CRUD methods on. So next, what we are going to do is create the create component form. So that will have the form similar to this one. And then when we click add hotel, it would add a new document to our database. Okay, so we now need to create the add new hotel form in here. So this will all be hooked up to useState. And then when we click add hotel, we will then dispatch the data in here to our database. If we click add hotel, as you can see, all of these fields will be required. So they do need to be filled in as well. So going back into the create component, I now have a div in here. So I'm going to give this a class name of create. Now save, and then inside here we're going to render a h2 saying add a new hotel. And then now what will happen is we just need to render a form component. So form, and then we don't need an action, but what we will do later is add on submit. So I'll just add that in now actually. So on submit is equal to curly braces, and then it takes in an event. And then what we want to do is render a function. So this function will be called add new hotel. And then what we want to do is pass in the event here as well. So now I just need to create this just above. So const add new hotel, takes in an event, and then we want to console log successfully added a new hotel. And the first thing we need to do is prevent the default action of a form submit. So passing in the E here, and then e.prevent default in here as well. So now if I save, we don't have anything in our form, so I just want to add in an input first of all, and then we also need to fix this TypeScript error. So if I hover over this, you can see here it says React form event HTML form element. So that is what I'm going to pass into my E in here. So React form event, and then now if I save, that should eliminate the error. And then first element in this form is going to be a label, and we don't want the HTML4s in here. I'll just leave them out. And this label is going to be the hotel title. And then we also want to have an input just below it of type text. This will be required. So now if I save, we now have hotel title, and in here is we have an input where we can type in as well. So now what we need to do is we need to connect this to our React state, so that when we eventually submit or press add a new hotel, we want to almost get a snapshot of whatever the state is of our application. So in this example, I'm going to create some state. So const title and set title, which is equal to use state. And this is going to be an empty string for now. And we also need to import use state from React. So now every input or everything within this form will have a value. So this value is going to be equal to the title that we have just declared here. And then when we change anything in the input, we want to have an onChange method in the input here. So onChange is equal to E. So we want to pass in the event again this time. And then we want to set the title to e.target.value, like so. And now if I save, I just want to console log the title. And if I inspect and go into my console, I want to type in here. So each time I press something, it console logs the state, so it updates the value of this title. So at the time where I press add a new hotel, it will take the last known value for the title and send that into our database. So essentially what we want to do is we want to send the data to a new document, and then whatever is last seen, so for example in this case it will be hello, we will send the hello text for the title into our new document. So therefore the title, so if we go into our hotel dashboard, the title will then be hello. So now all we need to do is repeat this. So I'm going to add in the rest of the form in. So if I just copy everything across and then just paste it in below, and we can look through it. So essentially we need to add the state in as well. So all of these pieces of state, I'm just going to add in below the title, like so. So we have the description, the feature, the location, the stores, region, country, review, total price, and per night. So if I save, we now have the form here, and each value, so each input or select drop down that we have is connected to a piece of state in here. So every time we update the piece of state or update the form in our front end, the state will update. So then we essentially pass in all of these values in our add new hotel, and then that will get sent as a post request to our database as a new document. What I also want to do is add a navigate in here. So when we click the add hotel and we successfully submit a hotel, we want to then navigate back to the home page. So the way to do that is const navigate is equal to use navigate, and that's from React Router DOM. So now all I need to do here is, once we've submitted and successfully added the hotel, we just want to navigate to the home route, and you just pass in a / like so. So that is the UI complete for all of the application. So we have the create form here. If I go into the home page, we have the home page rendering the relevant cards. If we click through to view more information, we have a details card on here where we can edit the description and then update the hotel, and we can also delete the hotel and click on here. What we will do next is add the functionality in for the add hotel, and then when we add a hotel, we will send all of the information in our form as a new document into our Firestore database. Okay, so now what we need to do is when we fill in the form, we have our state hooked up to our React application. So when we fill in all the details and then we want to click add hotel, we want to send all of this information into our Firestore database as a new document. So we will do that now. If I go into my controller.ts file, in here, I'm going to add a new document function. So going into here, I'm going to add a comment just underneath saying add a new hotel or add a new document to your Firestore database or your Firestore collection. So I'm going to export this function, so then what we can do is once we've exported the function, we can then call it in here. So I'm just going to name it add hotel, and it would take in some sort of parameters in as well. So in my controller file, export const add hotel is equal to an async function, which will take in a single argument of hotel data. So that will be the data that we pass in from our form here. So we will get all of the use states from each individual input or drop down, and then we will pass that in here. So is equal to async hotel data and an arrow function in here. So for now, I'm just going to give the hotel data as any, and I'm going to declare a new constant. So const new hotel is equal to await, and then this is where we need to add our new document to Firestore. So await add doc, which again is tree shaking, and we're only getting the add doc method from Firestore. So add doc. So as you can see here, we want to pass in the collection reference as the first argument and then the data as the second. So the collection reference is already specified, which is this hotel collection here. And then the second argument is going to be an object of the hotel data that we are receiving as an argument here. So we just want to spread that in here. And then this is new hotel. And what we want to do with new hotel is just console log, and then I'll just paste that in here. Console log of the new hotel was created at new hotel path. So with this new hotel now, we have a few methods that we can call on here. So we have the Firestore ID, parent, path, and type, and other various methods. So I'm just going to use path, but this will be sufficient enough as well. So await add doc of whatever we pass in as the hotel's data, and then that will add the document to the Firestore collection. So now all I need to do is, because I am exporting the add hotel, go into my create component, and we need to import add hotel in here, which we are doing from the lib controller. And now this needs one argument in here, which is the data that we need to pass in. So all of the hotel data. So I'm just going to pass it in as an object. So we essentially need to pass in title, which is equal to title, description, which is equal to description. And what I'll do is I'll just bring in everything here. And because the key and the value are the exact same thing, we can just pass it in as the one. So title could just equal title like so. And then also description could equal description like so, because they are the same key values. So if I just paste in all of the pieces of state in here that I've got, as you can see here, and now if I save all, we should now be able to add a new hotel in here. But I want to first of all go back into my controller.ts, and the hotel data now, I now need to give it a specific type. So if I save, it implicitly has an any type, but we essentially want to specify that these are the only values that will be passed in. So all I need to do is copy this, go into my types and hotel.ts, and in here create a new interface. So export interface of add hotel type. So this is essentially the same as the new hotel type without the ID, but this time they will be required. So I'm just going to copy this minus the ID and then also delete the question marks because this is required. You can only add a hotel type or add a hotel with values in the field. So if I copy that and go into my controller.ts and paste this in, and we also need to import this from our types, we can now see that the add hotel type is the correct type for our argument in our add hotel function. So if I save all, and we now need to test this out. So I want to add in a new hotel, and I'm going to add this in from our data.json file that I will add in to the repo. So I'm going to add in the hotel that is called Mandarin Oriental Hotel of Doha. So at the minute, we just want to double check we have one document in our Firestore database and we have one hotel rendering, which is the one in our database. So first off, the title is the Mandarin Hotel. So if I add that in, we got a description here. So I'll just copy and paste this in also. I'm just going to select a main feature of restaurant and bar. We have a location URL. So this is an image of the hotel. I'm going to give this one 4 stars. This country, the country that it is in Qatar. And then we have a region that I'm just going to add in also, which is in Doha, Qatar. We're going to give it a reviews, so we can give it as much as we want. So I'm just going to give it, for example, 400. The price for the night is going to be £204. Sorry, the price for the night is 204, and then the total price is going to be 815. So now, all being well, and I click add hotel, if we go into our create component, so this will add all of the values that we are passing into here to our document. We will also console log successfully added a new hotel, and then we will navigate back to the home page. And then when we navigate back to the home page, we will fetch the data in real time as we have done before of all of the hotels in our hotels collection, and then this will render out a new card for us as well. So if I click add hotel, as you can see, we have our first card here, but then we have also added our Mandarin Oriental Doha hotel in here as well. In real time also, our second document has been added to our database. So now we have all the information here. So if I was to go back to my application now and clicked through to the Doha hotel, we now have all of the data for the Doha hotel in here. So that is how you would add a document to your collection with Firebase. Okay, so now that we have added a document to our database, what we want to do now is delete the document from the database when we click this delete hotel button. So what I'm going to do is, again, as we have done with the add hotel function in our controller file, what we need to do is create a delete hotel function. So I'm just going to put a comment in here saying delete a document in your collection. So essentially what we need to do is we need to find the document by the ID. So in our details component here, we do have the ID here that we can find in our database. So GHA is in our database here as a document ID. So let's pass that in as an argument first of all. So the function is going to be export const because essentially we want to have this function reusable across our entire app. So export const of delete hotel is equal to an async function once again. And in this function, we're going to pass in an ID, which is going to be of string type. And then we want to, inside this component, await and call another method from Firestore similar to add doc, but this time it's going to be delete doc. So import that from Firestore. And in here, what we need to do is pass in the document reference. So in our case, that's going to be the ID. So delete doc, but first of all, we need to access the database. So access the Firestore. So in here, or I could declare a constant first of all. So const of the document that we are deleting is equal to the doc, which is from Firestore. And in doc, we need to pass in the Firestore argument and then the path. So the path will be hotel slash the ID that we get here. So doc and then Firestore, which we have defined above here. So we want to get our Firestore here, similar to the collection, and then the second argument is going to be template strings of hotels, which is this collection here, forward slash the ID. So forward slash the selector of ID, which is what we get in as an argument here. So all we need to do now is delete doc of document like so. Now if I save, that document should then be deleted once we click. And what I also want to do is add a navigate in here as well. So we will pass this in as an argument. So navigate to forward slash. So the second argument is going to be navigate. So when we delete an argument or delete a document, we then want to navigate to the home page. So navigate, and this is going to be of type any for now. So this is another way of passing in your types this way, or you could pass them in as an interface. It's up to you. It totally depends on the environment you're working on. So once we have done that, I also just want to console log before we have deleted the document. So console log, the hotel has now been deleted. So if I just put that in here, so what we need to do is call this from our details component. So call the delete hotel function. We want to pass in the ID of the hotel that we are deleting, and then we also want to pass in navigate. So what we want to do is on delete hotel, we just need to add an on click in here. So on click, and when we click on this delete hotel button, we want to pass in an anonymous function, and this will be delete hotel, which we need to import from the controller file here. So then what it also does is declaring it in the controller file, we can also use it anywhere else that we add the delete button on. So it's quite handy. So as you can see here, because we have declared the types, we can see here that ID needs to be a string, and we also need to pass in the navigate. So the ID in this case will be the hotel.id. So hotel.id, and then also we need to pass in navigate here as well. But we need to define navigate at the top. So just under the state, const navigate is equal to use navigate from React Router DOM. So now we should have the delete hotel function working correctly. So delete a document, we pass in the ID and the navigate. We want to get access to the document. So in our Firestore database, in hotels slash the ID that we are currently on, and then we just delete the document with delete doc as the Firestore function. So if I go and save all, and then if we go into our app, so as you can see here, we have an error because it could be undefined. So what I'm just going to do is in our delete hotel function, I'm just going to add a pipe in here, so it could be undefined also. So now if I save, and now what I want to do is if I click delete hotel, I want the Mandarin Oriental hotel to be deleted from here. We then want to get redirected back to the home page, and I expect only one hotel to be showing on there. So first of all, if I check, we have two hotels being rendered, so that's fine. I'm going to click into Mandarin Hotel, and then if I check my database, I have two documents in here. I expect this Qatar one to be deleted. So in my application, if I click delete, it's deleted, it's navigated me back to the home page. Now, if I go into my database, as you can see in real time, it deleted the database from here. So now I only have one document in my database. So that is how you delete a hotel. Next, we need to add the update functionality, and then I believe that should be the application complete. Okay, so the last piece of functionality that is left on this app is the update the document. So if we click through to our document here, what I've done is I've only added state to change the description, but you can enhance this and go further with it and edit the image and so on. But for now, if we click on edit description, we have a piece of state in here. Essentially what we want to do is we want to, whatever the value is in here, so new value, and we click update hotel, we want to send this piece of data into our database for the description. So in this case, it's the description. So in here, we want to update this description to the new piece of state in here, which is new value. So what we need to do is create the function for this. So if we go into our controller, and I'm just going to add edit a document. So edit a document. And essentially what it will do is if the document is there, then it will edit it. Otherwise, it will create a new document for you. Only update the fields that you have specified. So in this case, whatever the argument is that we pass in will be the updated description here. So that's what we're working with only on this app. So I'm going to put that in edit a document / description in this case, but you can further enhance it. So I'm going to export this function. So export const of update hotel. Again, this is going to be an async function, and it's going to take in an ID similar to the delete hotel. So I'm just going to copy that as the first argument because it could be undefined as well. And then the second argument is going to be the doc data. So the data that we are passing in here. So it's going to take this value in, and then it's going to add this value into our database. So I'm just going to put this as any, but it will be a string. So actually, I'll just change this to a string and see what comes up. So in my brackets, I want to create a constant. So first of all, we need to get the hotel. So const get hotel. So this is the hotel that we're working with. And similar to the delete doc, I'm just going to copy this actually. So const get hotel or doc or whatever you want to call it is equal to the Firestore /hotel /ID of what we are passing in. And we just need to add an arrow in here. So this time we want to await and we want to set doc. There's a few ways of doing this in Firestore, but I just want to do it this way because I feel like this is the best approach to update a document. So what it essentially does is it only edits the files that we want to edit instead of passing in all of the details once again and creating a new document or replacing it. So await set doc is going to be a function. So we need to import this from Firestore once again. So if I go to the top of my file, as you can see here, I'm just going to add a comment underneath. This is tree shaking from Firebase. So essentially, instead of me installing the entire package from Firestore or Firebase, I'm just using what I need. And then that way the app is more lightweight and it performs better and improves the speed of the site. So await set doc. So if I go into here, we first of all need a document reference. Then we need to pass in the data. And then I'm going to pass in a third argument as well, which is merge of true. So if I go on here, and first argument is going to be the get hotel. So essentially get the document. So this one here. And then the second argument is going to be the data that we pass in. So doc data, like so. And then the final argument is going to be merge of true in an object. So merge of true. So we want to merge the whatever the change is into our current document and replace it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of a string for doc data, I'm just going to pass it in as any for now. So we have three arguments. Await set doc, we pass in the get hotel, which is the relevant ID document that we need, the new data that we want to pass in, and then merge of true. All I want to do now is console log the value has been written to the database like so. So now that is all set. We can use this update hotel function. So if I go into my information here, as you can see, we are deleting the hotel, which is correct, but we now need to go into the edit component. So if we click through to the edit component in here, we now want to update the hotel. So bring in the update hotel function from our controller. And if we go into our controller, we can see here we need to pass an ID and the new doc data in here. So if I just close down the details page, and if we go into edit, so in the update hotel, we need to have access to the ID. So we need to pass down the ID. So if we go into information, and then all I'm going to do in here in the edit component is pass down a prop. So ID is equal to the hotel dot ID. Then now we have access to this prop in our edit component. So underneath here, ID, and we want to pass in the ID also here. So my first argument is going to be the ID, which we are passing down from the information component, and the ID is going to be undefined at the start. So I'm just going to pass in a question mark, and then this is going to be a string. So that's the ID portion set. And then the second argument is the updated details. So as I mentioned before, we created some state in new description here. So on change, we are setting the new description to the value of whatever we type in here. So the value is always going to be the new description. So what I want to edit is in my second argument, I'm going to access the database document here, and I want to access the description in particular. So description, and I want to set the description now to the new description state in here. So if I just put this in, so essentially when we click the handle update, so when we click update hotel, we are then going to call the update hotel function from our controller. That then takes in the ID of the document that we want to get. Then we want to pass in the updated data in here, and we want to merge it to the description that we are passing in the edit component here. So description is equal to the new description. And then just finally, what I want to do is navigate again back to the home page. So navigate back to the slash route like so. And then we also need to have the navigate. So const navigate is equal to use navigate, import that in from React Router DOM. And I also want to go back into my controller, and where it says here navigate of any, there is a specific type that we need to pass in for the navigate. So if I just hover over navigate, you can see here it says navigate function. So I'm just going to copy that and go into my controller on the delete hotel and pass that in. So we just need to control spacebar and then import that from React Router DOM and delete the extra colon here. So at the top here, we now have the navigate function from React Router DOM imported. So we have the relevant and correct type in there. So all that's left to do is save everything. The handle update method should be updated. So if we test this out, so in here we have set on 4 acres on the outskirts of Point Reyes National. So if I check my description here, which is set on 4 acres, what I then want to do is update the new description state in here. So this is my new description. So now if I press the update hotel, what will happen is it will update this description, but we want to navigate back to the home page. So then when we navigate back to the home page, we fetch the new updated data in real time. So then we can access the new description when we click onto the view more information button. So if I click update hotel, and then now if I go into my Firestore document, as you saw there, it says this is my new description. So we should see that rendered down onto the details page. So click view more information, and then you can see there, this is my new description has been rendered on the page. So that is how you update the Firestore document with React. All the CRUD functionality is working correctly. So on the home page, essentially what we are doing is fetching all the documents in real time, which is what we have done. And then when we click onto the view more information, we then fetch all the details for a single document in here. We also have the edit functionality where we can update the details for the document in here. We can also delete the document in the details page. And then finally, if we click onto the new hotels route, we have a form in here where if we fill in all of the details and press the add hotel button, we then have all of the details here get sent to the Firestore database and add a new document in here. All we need to do now is do a few slight style tweaks to our application, and then we will deploy our app. Okay, so I just want to do a few design tweaks. So as you can see here, the card is stuck to the left. So I just need to go into the information component. So I'm going to go onto my hotel preview class name. And then in the margin, I just want to add 0 auto in here. Save, so it just goes into the center. And then if I go on to the other pages, so view more information, edit description is working correctly. Everything else is looking fine. I just need to delete my console logs where I have used them. So console logs, that one's fine. I'm going to delete this one because we don't need it anymore. And then that one should be fine. Delete this console log, and then the others should be fine. So if I now save, what I now want to do is deploy the application with Firebase hosting. So if I just close everything down and now close my terminal off, first command you need to do is Firebase login, but I have already logged in, so I just would leave that. So if you would just do Firebase login, and then what we want to do is Firebase init, like so. Press enter, Firebase init, go down to hosting, press spacebar, and then enter, and then use an existing project, so press enter again. And then we have this one here, so hotel dashboard, so I'm going to use this project, so press enter again. But if you have any different projects, just scroll down to the relevant one, press enter, and then my public directory is going to be the build. So if you type in build and press enter, and this is going to be a single page app. So React is a single page application. So press Y and press enter again. And then when we deploy with GitHub, I'm just going to leave that as no and press enter. So the initialization is complete. So where we said about the build, we now need to create a bundle in our build folder. So as you can see now, it's just an empty index.html file, and we want to almost commit the changes that we have done here into our build folder. So all we do here in our terminal, npm run build and press enter. So now what that will do is it will compile everything into a small JavaScript bundle. So it'll strip off anything that isn't needed in our application. So then it's ready to be deployed onto the Firebase hosting. So whilst that's installing, please like and subscribe if you have enjoyed these videos, and please let me know if you want me to do any other builds with React or Next.js or even React Native, and then I will see if I could get them done. So now in the build folder, we have a small bundle in here of all of our projects. So our CSS and JS are in the build folder. So the last command to do now is Firebase Deploy, and then this will then give us a URL that we can access. So Firebase Deploy and press enter. This will create the hosting for us, and then we should be able to access on the internet our app. So as you can see here, I have a URL. So if I just follow the link and open this up. So now you can see here we have a web app on the internet that has all our hotels on here. What I'm going to do is just test this out and add a new hotel in. So this will be the W Borgata. So in new hotels, title is W Borgata. I'm going to add a description also, and then choose a feature, so spa and wellness. I'm going to add a image in also. It's going to be 5 stars, and the country is in Colombia, and then the region is Bogota in Colombia. This is going to have 608 reviews. The price is 800 for the total, and the per night is 130. So if I press add hotel, as you can see here, my Bogota hotel has been rendered onto the database. If I go into here, we can now see our database has updated as well, with it being live on the internet. So that's all complete and the functionality is working correctly. If I click through to it and edit a description. So this is my new description. This will then update the hotel. So if I go back into it, you can see it's added the new description in. And just finally, if I delete, this will then remove the document from my Firestore database. So as you can see, that document has now gone. So that is the end of the build. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe.